Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Guile here, and welcome back to another Supreme Commander Epic. Just a couple of weeks to go, ladies and gentlemen, before we can get back on a regular casting schedule. Term time will resume, and of course the dancing orangutan shall grace the Guile cast page. Once again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, you just have to like my page and wait and see. So I think it's September the 7th, something like that, and we'll get the kids back at school and we can get rolling with more faff goodness. You guys have been incredibly patient over the summer, so thank you very much for that. And I've got a bit of a treat for you today. It's the first epic in an age. It has been a hell of a long time, and it's a true David and Goliath story. Certainly when the Persians invaded Greece in 480 BC, the stage was set for one of the great stories of all time. We at FAF have our own versions of the tale, albeit slightly different. Our David is armed with nuclear warheads and has the mental acuity of Deep Blue and the APM that would put a StarCraft professional to shame. So it's going to be interesting, and it's going to take place on Dual Cap EP version 4, a map I'm pretty sure we haven't featured before here at Guilecast. Well, I'm ready, you guys are ready, and the players are sure as hell ready. So let's go on over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on, because it's going to be a 2 versus 6 Pro v Joe treat. That's right, you heard me right, 2 versus 6. Certainly we've never had a game quality with balance of 1.38% before here at Guilecast. And you will also, actually, before we get introducing the players, notice that I am using the old scoreboard still again, and that is because I'm sorry to say I'm pretty sure now, certainly it's not 100% perfect, and that might be because my computer is old or starting to feel old, but it seems to make a huge difference having the Supreme Scoreboard mod enable. It seems to contribute enormously to all of that processor lag that creates the stuttering later on. I'm guessing because it's constantly referring back and reading all of the stats and feeding it into it, and that's just too much load for the game or the computer, or a combination of both, to handle. So there we are. Anyway, let's take a look at our teams. Over here on the left, Team 1, our pro team, we've got Blackheart. He's misclicked and gone Cybran in combat green there, opening first land, and his only teammate south of the river is Bloodir in regal purple. He is opening first land, going Aeon there. So we've got a Aeon Cybran mix. Great air power, great ground power, great stealth power, very dangerous all in all. And our Joe team, number 2 team over here, the Crow for Luck, first of all in UEF, how very splendid, opening first land in mellow yellow. Next up in baby blue, we have the winner of this week's amusing name award. It's Pounded Toast. Let's hope he stays in it for a long time, because I like saying it, Pounded Toast. He's going Aeon, opening first land, opening second air. Next up, he thinks a lot of himself, it's King Dong, walking towards the front there. Seraphim in Ferrari red, opening first land. Across the river for the second batch of players already at the river with his ACU is Zero. He's going Cybran in Vivacious Violet, and he has opened first land, going second air. Also going Cybran next up is Rondog in Elephantine Grey. He's opened first land. And last but not least, down here at the bottom, it's FTX Commando. He's going Aeon, opening first and second air in Pontiff White. So there we have it. 2 Aeon, a UEF, a Seraphim, and 2 Cybran for the Joe team. All races represented, but definitely, again, a decent focus towards Aeon and the Cybran. So lots of air power for them as well, and lots of ground power to boot as well. So first naval yard going down there, and that is for Rondog, and typically you would see a lot of early naval game pressure on a map like this. And incidentally, I think this is probably the first time this has been featured here at Guilecast, but we're not going to go into it because, you know what, you can see what it's all about. It is just a different version of Gap of Rohan with lots more players in it and a lot of extra room, and an arena in the center where basically the majority of the action is supposed to take place. So you get the idea. And I get tons of these maps sent into me. I get about 10 a week probably, but sort of my heart falls when I boot them up, because the majority of them, the vast majority, are huge, slow turtle fests where not a lot happens. But it's a very different story when you have a 2v6. And I've got to say, you'd be looking at the game quality, you'd be thinking 2v6, and even though it's Blackheart and Bloodire, you'd be thinking, well, surely you got to be thinking that the Joes have an advantage. Actually, if I put money on it, I'd be putting it on these two, purely because they have all of the same amounts of mass available to them. And although the start will be significantly slower, from the mid-game, these guys are going to be incredibly dangerous. So really, the Joes are going to have to get out of the starting gates quickly and start harassing, and that looks like exactly what they're planning to do. Zero coming in already with some T1 bombers, one heading north of the river, the other one going straight for Blodire's base, it would seem. I didn't see them do an early scout, so he's going to have to use the bomber to get some intel and head slowly here. You can see that first waypoint, giving it a chance to get a read on something. He spies an engineer, and he will take first blood there from Bloodire. Blodire's going to have to pause the construction of that air factory, which is going to degrade completely, to keep that NG moving and keep it alive. He has got interceptors now going after the bomber, but one of the inties flies straight through the bomb stream. Although the bombs don't kill the engineer on that second pass, they will manage to take out the interceptor, which is highly entertaining. Eventually, Bloodire will manage to kill off that bomber, but we do have a bit of an entanglement now with FDX Commando, who has rolled out with some of his own inties to try and give these T1 bombers from Zero a little extra time. The other ones have focused on the mouth of the river here, and I think that's a mistake. We've got a lot of clumped up NGs in their base, but of course, well, we have the benefit of total vision. That is not something that the Joe team have at this point, so you can't blame them for missing out on small opportunities. A lovely little spit from Bloodire keeps two of the three engineers in that bombing zone alive, but one of them does succumb to that bomber pressure. Blackheart now has some traces online up the mouth of the river, so they're going to start taking pot shots at the escorting interceptors. Taking a look at what's going on in the middle, massive incursion from the Joe team. So King Dong out front with his ACU, two land factories online pretty much already. There it goes. Zero also out even further, right in the center of the map with his ACUs. Picked up a few of the mass extractors and will soon be working on a land factory as well. Powder Toast is out here up further to the northeast. 4 land factories queued up there. We've also had an engineer drop in from the Crow, who has picked up some of the mass extractors further out west, and is also working on another land factory as well. So basically, you're looking at the pros having to sit back a little bit. They are starting to push up. There's no way they can contend with that level of expansion, so the Joe's doing exactly the right thing here. Question is, can they keep it up, and can they deal the all-important crippling blows that will require, or they will be required to deal if they're going to stay in this game. Transport out now for Zero, inbound with what looks like 6 Medusas on board. That Skyhook has an LZ somewhere. It's pretty deep over here, so going for a little bit of a stealth drop out of any potential radar range there, and hoping to pick off some unsuspecting engineer, no doubt, further over here, or indeed go after some exterior structures and then start working on the mass extractors. Good fighter screen set up by Commando, and that LZ's actually changed. He's going for a little bit more of an aggressive start, heading in towards the forward mass extractors of Bloodire, and these are all at Tech 2 now, so they will be painful ones to lose. Doesn't want to risk getting shot down, so he's giving the main base plenty of breathing room. Away goes the first volley. 6 Medusas should only take a few volleys to take that down. Looks like they're going to take 3 volleys to take that down, depending on how accurate they are. Just 240 hit points left, so there goes the first mass extractor. Excuse me. There goes a radar. Other engineers potentially vulnerable, and a little bit of a split going on here. Engineers inbound, no doubt, on some kind of reclaiming mission for Blodir. They will manage to get another mass extractor, and I won't lie, it'll be nice to see a slightly less stuttery game in the mid to late game. But I do miss the intel that you're given as a caster from that Supreme Scoreboard mod. It was so invaluable. Be able to split it up by teams and see what we're doing here. Well, Blackheart way out in front on 118 mass. Blodir, as you would expect, on second on 85. And then it's all the Joes following up after that 63, 62. We do have some pros in here. Incidentally, Crow for Luck 1500 and Zero also 1500, but that's right at the cusp there of pro Jodom. I'm sure they won't take offense to being highlighted as the Joe team or on the Joe team. Another drop in from Zero. This one actually has a engineer on board. See if he's planning to do anything with that. T1 bombers into rebuff from Blodir. One of them's going to get one bomb off before they're all going to get shot down by Commando's interceptors. More mass extractors potentially under threat here, but just one lone Aurora out for Blodir. Actually, another one rolling in as well. More than enough to deal with the threat, along with some extra T1 bomber assistance. Meanwhile, in the middle, Pro's having a hard time contending with the pressure that's coming in from the east. Lots of engineers for Blodir falling foul of some mech marine pressure from Crow for Luck, but Blodir is skillful in his pursuit of that, manages to kill it off, and Blackheart already at Tech 3 land and rolling in with some loyalists, putting pressure on the Crow for Luck's forward position. At land HQ right up front, Blodir getting those units into the fray in record time. 10 minutes, 10 and a half minutes, and already in full production. And that is with taking into account all of the expansion that's necessary to pick up 6 starting locations and develop them in such a way and in order to keep up in a game of this very perverse setup that we've got here. Those loyalists making good ground up there at the forward position. In fact, even breaking through further down closer to the river, but a little bit of a fighter bomber assault from Zero going after Blackheart's main base. Can't quite tell what the priority target was. No major wrecks. I suppose it may well have been one of the T2 mass extractors up front. Otherwise, there doesn't seem to be a lot of casualties. Another Corsair rolling in, picking up some engineer kills surrounding that Tech 3 land HQ, but nothing critical there. And another drop from Zero. This time Blackheart is the focus. 6 Medusas make landfall. And straight after the energy storage. How quick will Blackheart be to defend? He's got a lot of engineers here. They could throw down some auto guns in record time. But Blackheart, his attention is elsewhere. And there should be a few engineer casualties here, surely. There goes the point defense construction order. I think Blackheart's been lucky there. Lots of those shells drifting wild, just wide of the engineers. Blackheart dropping up build capacity to the front now that his loyalists have cleared some room. They've pushed on all the way down over to Powdered Toast, who's actually taken a few hits. That ACU into the yellow, 6,000 or rather 8,000 hit points on that commander. Still a couple of those loyalists going. Crow and Powdered Toast and Zero doing what they can to contend with it. Zero very far forward indeed underwater with his comm, getting an upgrade there. Looks like it's the T3 land upgrade, if he's to be believed by his comm statement there. And if you take a look at what Blackheart and Bloodear can see, very little vision here. No idea that Zero is lurking in the water, completely devoid of any sonar coverage that far up. And Bloodear at Tech 3 Air shoves an ASF into the fray. Get 1 or 2 kills before it gets shot down. There's an awful lot of interceptors lurking for the Joes in that portion of the map. And now another stream of loyalists piling in from the west from Blackheart, and a strap bomber out as well for Bloodear. He's going to send that straight over to attack. That's probably a pretty good idea. Base is going to be vulnerable, you would imagine, to T3 air incursion. There's been little or no activity on this side of the map whatsoever, so nothing to promote any kind of defensive response so far on behalf of the Joes. Strap bomber holding position out in the middle so far. King Dong right up in the middle with his ACU. If you can get it a little bit closer, he might be able to overcharge some of these loyalists and help Zero out, who's losing a lot of structures in the middle. And once again, the bomber resumes forward momentum as a spy plane gets in over the base and probably gives Blackheart and Bloodear their first really good recent intel on what's happening on that side of the map. Certainly will allow that bomber to select a target. Bombs away. Where's it going? We've already lost a couple of P-gens. I think they might be getting reclaimed there, but one bomb right in the center of those mass extractors takes out all 3. Very precise work, but unfortunately can't get a second one off, as Commando, already at T3 Air, has a few ASFs in play. So the next strap bomber will stick towards the center of the map and try and assist from there. So far the Joes seem to have very little in the center that can contend with this loyalist spam. We are at T3 up here for Powdered Toast, so we've got one Harbinger lurking out front of his forward position. But everything else, the vast majority of units inhabiting the ground game out here for the Joes belong to King Dong, and they are all Ilshabas, all Tech 2 assault bots. Zero trying to get some static emplacements online, some T1 PDs. King Dong trying to support those engineers while they get those emplacements online. Blackheart probably wants to roll on in and take out those engineers if he can. But he would disagree with me. Much safer to bug out. And this is unprecedented. A dual gap EP, 16 minutes, and we're only just seeing one of the teams building their first naval yard. Purely, of course, down to the fact that it's this bizarre setup. And what have we got up here at the top? Well, it's a continental comm drop from the Crow. Airlifting his commander across the screen. And can we see where he's heading? Well, he's coming right the way across the top, then he's going to sweep south, and that is where he's going to make landfall with his commander, and he'll be looking to deal as much damage as he can to Blackheart and stifle this pressure. Key structures that he'll want to focus on are some of these power plants down here in the middle, and of course Blackheart's commander itself right in the center of them. Have to wait until he makes it onto ground. If he makes it at all, that shield almost buckled now as he runs into a few swift winds belonging to Blackheart's teammate Bloodear. But of course a lot of hit points on the Continental. It's the perfect comm drop machine. Down goes the commander. That personal shield instantly recharges. And looks like we're at Tech 3 Commander and maybe Gun as well. Of course, all my mods are off now, so no notify mod on there at all. We're at Tech 3 indeed. And due to an issue I'm having with my own window at the moment, can't select the thing there, but I'm pretty sure that is definitely the Gun as well. So he's got the Zeph amp on board. So he immediately drops off, throws down some T1 PDs. Throws down an air cleaner. And then he's going to throw some more plasma cannons on further west as well. And then he's going to start work on a Ravager. Now this is vitally important for Blackheart that he stifles this. In comes a couple of Loyalists, but he's quick to overcharge that. And he's going to manage to get that Ravager online. Now he needs more T1 PDs over to support this. He needs to keep an exclusion zone around the Ravager as best he can so it can go to work on all of the important structures. In the wider game, we've got more strap bombers lurking. He needs to be very careful indeed as we have shockers circling down here belonging to Bloodear, but he has got a bit of an escort overhead from his teammate there. FDX Commando supporting with ASFs. There go the all-important plasma cannons, and this is starting to look a little bit bad for Blackheart, but Blackheart very nearly has an experimental which will dramatically change the shape of this attack. Suddenly things look a little bit precarious for the Crow, and he may not even know that that is on the way. Well, yes, he will. He'll be well aware of the danger, and there it goes, and it's been pinged by his teammates. So he is going to need to think about evac immediately, and indeed he is heading back towards the Continental. So Blackheart masterfully times that experimental and shuts down the comm drop almost as quickly as it began. And now the Crow for Luck finds himself running for his life, and Bloodear is quick to capitalize. He's going to send in his ASFs. FDX Commando is in the area with his own ASFs. The question is, how much damage can Bloodear inflict on this transport? And the Crow for Luck is trying to dodge. He might be thinking about trying to drop the comm off, but he's going to lose it. I can't believe it. The Crow for Luck, so full of joy, so young, taken out at 20 minutes, forced back into the air by the construction of a megalith, and Bloodear capitalizes. Great work from the pros. And would you look at that? Zero left in the area with those ASFs just in shock. It was all going so well, it looked like that comm drop was working. But a quick pan to the south, and suddenly you see why Blackheart is the man to beat. He's now sending that megalith out further to the east. And that will change the nature of this game dramatically. Nothing out here can contend with that range. Joe's going to have to adapt or die. We do finally have a few naval vessels up at the mouth of the river now for the Joes. I do wonder if we had seen more early naval pressure from more players on the Joe side of things, if we wouldn't be looking at a very different picture indeed. You can plug the river up here with destroyers and cruisers, really shut down the air game for your opponents, and that has been vital. That air game hasn't borne much fruit for either side really, right up until the destruction of the Crows' Continental there. And it wasn't a great mismatch. It looked like Bloodir and Commando had comparable numbers of ASFs in that portion of the map. Really doesn't take many of them to shoot down a Continental. Com drop is just so risky on a map like this, and there's so much mass to be had, and tech expansion is as quick as it is. Megalith now reaching the front line, and King Dong issuing what looks like a series of consolidatory waypoints further back. Powdered Toast completes an experimental at GC, now rolling forward. Another one under construction. As we move further east and take a look at what the Joes are doing in their main base. Commando working on power production. That's what I like to see. Some forward thinking from Zero, getting some SMD. Getting towards that stage where potentially someone could be developing a nuke, and another one up there as well for Zero. So Zero really taking command of the SMD game, and we never mentioned, actually, so shocked were we by the demise of the Crow, we never mentioned that, of course, full share is on. So somewhere a bull fairy has died of terminal halitosis. Very sad thing indeed. Blackheart mentioning that there's some lag in the game that they're playing. Someone has either connection issues or a subpar computer in this game. And that GC from Powdered Toast manages to get in range of the Megalith. And not only that, he has some asylum cover from King Dong as well. So he's yet to actually take much damage. Taking a couple of grazing hits, but the Othams, the Ilshivers, and the huge number of Harbingers that he's accumulated make short work of the Crab. Once again, it would seem like the Joes are on the warpath. Would you look at the amount of ASFs that Bloodir has accumulated? Lots of T2 gunships pouring out for Commando. Well, I suggest you need to work more on ASF numbers. Those gunships are going to be utterly useless in a conflict between you and Bloodir. How many ASFs are we looking at here? So 30 out for Commando. Zero's got a few in the field as well. He's got about 9, so 39, 40 ASFs around abouts there. And if we compare that with Blodir, what he's looking at, he's on 99, so 40 versus 100. That's a very poor ratio indeed for the Zhou team, but if they can stack the mouth of the river with enough ground-based firepower, it might not matter, as this huge mass of ground forces from King Dong and from Powdered Toast also continue to move forward. They definitely need to move forward together, though. Zero quick to get the engineers on and cannibalize the crab wreck. Another crab out for Blackheart, and a Monkey Lord under construction, a GC complete as well. So now firmly in the experimental phase of the game. And would you look at this, so we're already working on artillery, Tech 3 artillery now for Blodir. Let's hope that's not presumptuous. Shockers out for Blodir. Land a few bombs right on top of the Thota. And that is definitely poor coordination there. All of King Dong's forces will now get slaughtered. Powdered Toast and Zero did not commit at the same time. That is just extra mass returned to sender there. Or rather, not returned to sender, donated to your arch enemy. Commando about to lose what intis, or rather ASFs, he's got in the center by a large sandwedging air pincer movement. Aeon Cruiser are the best. I can't tell if that's sarcastic or not. It certainly should be. And still, Blodir getting work done with those strats over at the front, and very comfortable to sit in and around their base at the moment. They know they've got more than enough mass to be getting on with. Lots of support commanders being pumped out now by Blodir and now by Blackheart as well. Lots of extra mass into their coffers. So 800 odd for Blodir, 700 odd for Blackheart. Looking pretty sturdy up there. I'm not going to sit there and do any maths. Sure, those of you who are interested are more than capable of pausing the replay and totting up those numbers. Zero out in 500. I'm guessing that's because of his extra base up here. Sitting on 2, of course. Full share being on. Donated base over from the demise of the Crow. Certainly no way in at present on the land side of things. So Zero sending a couple of handfuls of bricks off towards the naval yard. Blackheart responding very quickly, and look at the build power coming off those hives. Insta-building harms like they were T1 radars. Bricks change tack. Can't contend with that torpedo fire. Instead, they're going to try and dish out some damage while they still can. Megalith immediately opens up on them. Can they get in amongst all of these engineers is the question. Well, very unlikely. Look at all the strat bombers that Bloodir has accumulated, and Bloodir even throwing up build orders in harm's way because he knows those bricks will be gone any second now. Well, quite a few bricks get taken out, but certainly no critical damage is sustained. So the shielding is more or less complete over here. This emissary will be supported by 4 T3 power plants. I think they did lose one shield up at the front. I'm sure that will be replaced a little bit later. But that emissary at 8,000 of 12,000 and not long to go, and that will be a very welcome addition to the game for the pros. But Zero has beat him to it. That disruptor online right at the front, and you can see he's built that just a little bit further forward, so everything is in range of that static T3. Perfect location for it, and that's opened up. Now the question is, what's his target? Oh, all of the mass storage destroyed. One more shell will finish off the mass extractors, assuming it lands in a similar position. Scathis under construction up there for Blackheart. Blackheart can't believe it. Is it Cybernati that's incoming? Yes, yes it is. And not only that, you have a massive land incursion. Hopefully, for the Joe's sake, this will be harmonized between the players a little bit better. This one also supported by a Galaxy-class battleship coming up from Rondog, who's been pretty quiet. He's the only guy for the Joes who's building any navy. But here we go. ASFs for Bloodir out over the top, along with the Shockers. We do have some mobile T3 anti-air in the picture now from King Dong. Bloodir's ASFs now embroiled in a pretty large battle overhead. The Monkey Lord up front is dealt with incredibly quickly. More strats out over the top of that huge army of Harbingers that really need to carry on moving forward. GCs have targeted each other. Megaliths further back providing ranged support. But there it is, Bloodir with overwhelming air superiority, providing enough cover for his strat bombers. And that AoE doing huge amounts of damage on the ground. Powdered Toast will want to just get the Harbingers in back here amongst some critical systems. If he can do that, it'll all be worth it. It's going to be a huge quantity of mass, remember, that is being dumped right on top of Blackheart. So if it goes wrong, it'll go wrong in a big way. There goes Blackheart's Galactic Colossus. There goes Blackheart's T3 land headquarters. King Dong loses his Ethota, but it is right up front. The Ion Storm should assist the Joes a little bit, although some of Powdered Toast's Harbingers will fall foul of that. We've got bricks rolling up again from Zero up the canal there. More torpedo launchers being spammed up at the front, this time by Bloodir and T2. That emissary nearly complete. No idea what the disruptor for Zero is firing on, or it looks like it's going after this kind of area now, supporting the attack. The attack that has now subsequently petered out. Blackheart has lost what looks like 7 mass extractors or so. Bloodir still under assault from Zero. His support commanders throwing up lots of eruptors to try and contend with it, but the bricks are more or less out of range of that now. They can get down here and take out some of these P-gens. That would be huge, but would you look at that? Lots of Tech 1 point fence in around the Patron, the SMD, protecting it from any kind of tele-snipe and follow-up nuke attack. And the GC just about catching up with those bricks now. Spectres in overhead supporting, and that will be the end of that incursion. Huge attack from the Joes and some damage inflicted, certainly on Blackheart, but would you look at the relative gold mine that he's been left if he can secure this area, get out in front. You can already see those Cybran engineers flocking to the front line to scoop all of that goodness up. Tempest queued up now for Bloodir. Scathis almost complete. This game's tempo is frightening now. Looks like almost like multiple Tech 3 artillery shells now incoming. Could have that wrong. Can't see the other one at the moment, but ow! Another 3 Tech 3 extractors bite the dust for Bloodir, but he's managed to complete his emissary. Wondering if they shouldn't have focused down here. I would have seen that under construction personally, and that would have been my priority. Throw a few strap bombers in there for good measure as well. Make sure you stay in a position where your team only has possession of Tech 3 artillery. Instead, they feel the resourcing options are more important, but the problem is you take him out and these guys, their APM, so good. They're going to have another 3 T3 mass extractors here almost before the next 3 have been taken out. They've got the mass to spare. That's the astonishing thing. So much mass. Now Bloodir on 754. Let's have a quick look about what they're chatting about. As if he won't see. And they keep talking, which is infuriating. Something they definitely need to fix if it's fixable. I doubt it is, but Powdered Toast has a lot of ground power once again, but now it's under Scathis attack and Megalith attack as well. He's going to have to withdraw. He can't sit there offering free veterancy. Scathis is just tearing them apart. Run for the hills. Seeing any nuke launchers being thrown together yet. 35 minutes in a game of this type, you would expect to see them reasonably soon. Lots of strap bombers incoming now from Commando, with lots of ASFs to back them up as well. Needs to get his ASFs in front though. Bloodir incoming, gonna go straight after the lead strats. Picks off 1, picks off 2, there goes 3 and 4 and 5. Oh, it's a lot of mass. Now Zero finds himself cut off against superior numbers. He's going to lose those. Comes in with a few strats of his own, trying to pick off the damaged Megalith. Brings it down into the red, about 31k left. Well, Commando repositions and tries to give Zero a chance to get out with some ASFs left intact, which he manages to. Now seeing some ASFs out for Powdered Toast as well. So let's do a quick tot up of what we're looking at here. Powdered Toast with 23, Commando with 128. That's pretty impressive. Zero with 25. Compare that to Bloodir, who's on 184. Well, altogether, it's comparable numbers. Oh, would you look at this? We've got an experimental bomber as well on the field now, but once again, the timing of the attack is pretty poor, and as soon as Bloodir realizes what's coming his way, he's gonna head on after it. There he goes, he's seen it, gets in behind the bomber. He's gonna lose a lot of ASFs in this attack, but it's gonna be worth it. Can't have that lingering. And might actually hand temporary air control over to the Joes, and I think it will as they fall into pursuit. A few strap bombers are going to make it through onto Bloodir's main base. What are they going for? Looks like they're going after the emissary. A lot of shield coverage to try and break through. And that's obviously the one purpose that that experimental bomber was designed for, but just couldn't get the drop on those ASFs. That was not the time to take it in. And if he was going to, he had to get some kind of distraction going on and approach from a different vector. This does not look good for the fairly limited naval presence of Rondog. He's already lost a few vessels down here. And the aircraft carriers and the Galaxy now under Tempest attack. Only needs to land a shot somewhere in the vague area, and that massive AoE will do the rest. Now, what's the emissary going after? You can see a few Cybran power plants have been taken out down here. Previously, we guessed belonging to Zero. And we're seeing a lot of strategic missile submarines emerging now for Rondog, who hasn't played an enormous role in this one. Not so far anyway. Tempest into the yellow. Going toe-to-toe with that Galaxy. Galaxy's going to have to do some serious micro if he's going to avoid the next couple of shells. I don't think he's going to avoid that unless it's dropped short. Boom, baby! But the Tempest follows shortly after. A nice strap bomb run from Commando deals with that. He needs to get those back before Bloodir responds. Serious cat and mouse game in the skies. So many strategic missile submarines. If they all get their nukes at the same time, could be a threat that the pros aren't prepared for. There's quite a loss of SMD around though, so they'd have to pick their target very carefully. Another strap bomber attack from Commando. he is tenacious. I'll give him that. The disruptors from Zero still trained on this general area, and they're desperate to do something about this emissary, and I don't blame them since another one is on the way. Shielding is down. A couple of well-timed disruptor bolts. Oh, it's going to be close. They only need to bag one power plant. The rest should go. Oh, that's a beautiful sight. Oh, that's really gonna hurt. And the Joes successfully eliminate the biggest threat to their survival at the moment. Very nicely done indeed, and it is indeed a dual disruptor setup. We've got under some pretty serious shield coverage for Zero. He's getting another one online as well. And with the pros losing their only Tech 3 artillery, suddenly the outlook for them looks a little less rosy. And we have a Paragon under construction at the back of Blackheart's base, well clear of anything vulnerable, just in case they lose it. Paragons, of course. And they go pop. They go pop with the force of pretty serious nuke. Blodir getting peppered now by this disruptor fire. They've got to find some way of dealing with Zero's position here. It's single-handedly dismantling everything they've worked so hard for. Blackheart dispatching a large number of aircraft carriers, probably for the air cover. Perhaps concerned about these constant strap bomber attacks that Commando has been unleashing. Most of them have been very unsuccessful as it happens. It just shows you when you get enough T3 artillery power, sometimes all you need is a few strap bombers to slip through. Be enough to deplete those shields and allow the artillery to land. Powdered Toast still dancing with the Scathis in the center. I shudder to think how many kills that must have now. Oh, only 90. I thought it must be higher, I must admit. A couple of crabs out front, picking off harbs that stray into range. Powdered Toast about to lose another GC. Way he's escaping now as he turns his back to those crabs and runs. He'll never get out of range. Another wave of strap bombers in from Commando, who has done sterling work this game already, and just one pass takes a huge chunk of health off that crab. But look at the amount of Myrmidons that Blackheart has amassed back here. Lucky if any of those strap bombers make it back out for a second run. If they do, it'll only be a handful. Oh, that's very costly indeed. Powdered Toast rolling back in with his T3 land. Only 2 strap bombers make it out. I think any future attacks should come in from the side. They know what's good for them. Meanwhile, 6 strategic missile submarines for Rondog, using their cruise missiles to go after the aircraft carriers. That's a pretty shrewd move. They do have pretty powerful TAC missile defense, but those strategic missile submarines pack a pretty severe punch. Down goes the crab that the Joes were working on. There goes a Colossus. But at great cost. Neither team making any real headway. Another Tempest rolling forward now for Blodir. Of course, if that gets in towards the beach over here, that could wreak untold damage, and even worse if it gets anywhere near to Zero's base. And Blackheart just pinged that base, asking if there's an anti-nuke here, and I can't see one, I've got to admit. Presumably that means Blackheart has a nuke somewhere, or maybe just a strategic missile submarine. He does have a few of them over here. And that is a shocking lapse in concentration from Zero not to get an anti-nuke online over here. You can see these scout planes rolling out for Blackheart now. Is he going to get a view of it? Well, he'll get a pretty good view, and I think that'll be enough to confirm that so the Joes almost have a Paragon up as well. Speaking of which, how is the Paragon going on over here? Well, that's nearly complete. I think the Joes are actually slightly ahead of the Pros. They're going to get theirs online first. So a race for the Paragons. But there's been very little on the scouting front. And again, of course, the nuclear warnings not playing for me on replays. I do wish someone would help me fix that. But Zero, oh no! Is he going to get killed in the blast wave as well? I think he's going to get out. Just manages to escape, but he loses everything. Everything in that forward position. Oh my goodness. One anti-nuke and things would have been very different. And now we've nearly got 2 more emissaries online. So suddenly the Pros are going to be the ones with the artillery. The Paragon under excellent shield coverage. And I gotta say, being a veteran of longer games of SOPCOM, it's how me and real life buddies used to play this game. This is how you set it up. You do not put your Paragon near anything critical, because when it goes, it takes everything with it, and you certainly don't build your second one right next to it. That is exactly not the thing to do. I know they're in a hurry now. Shielding only just going up for it. This is all wrong. Take out one Paragon and it will take out both of them. Horrible, horrible Paragon placements there from the Joes. But they did get theirs up first, only just. So Blackheart now has unlimited resources, which is frankly a horrible prospect for anyone who would be facing them. Imagine they'll be getting to work on one for Blodir soon enough, but hopefully in a better location than the Joes. Now these strategic missile submarines all on the verge of getting their nukes, and the Pros have discerned that there is something there and getting some NGs to start recycling them, but just look at the rate of decay. They're going to take some time to succumb to NG only pressure there. Question is, what is Rondog going to prioritize with those nukes? There's a lot of anti-nuke coverage in the main base of the Pros. Powdered Toast still going toe-to-toe up front with Blackheart. That will be impossible soon enough, now that Blackheart has unlimited resources, or nearly unlimited resources. Scathis has moved forward slightly, gets into range of Powdered Toast base. That will be the end of that. Saw a whole load of scout planes fly over a moment ago from Blackheart. And there go the nukes from Rondog. And I wouldn't have chosen that. Going after the perimeter monitoring station and the SAMs in the center, but not with all, and then sending 2 in towards Blodir, but I think Blodir will easily contend with those 2 nukes, so that is just a waste, and there's nothing really critical there. If you're going to send it anywhere, why not split those? There was no anti-nuke in the area, and they might have been able to grab the Scathis as well. So a series of errors just coming out from the Joes now, and another nuke out from Blackheart, and 2 more nukes in towards Blodir's base. I think he'll be able to deal with those as well. Oh, if he'd have saved them all up, one might have slipped through, but where's this one going? It's going in towards Powdered Toast. In fact, it's going after Powdered Toast's ACU. And then once again, no anti-nuke. He starts to move, but too late. RIP, he says in local chat. Boom, baby! Landed so close, even if the nuclear trigger failed. I think the kinetic energy of the missile alone would have been enough to take out the commander. This game is just collapsing now for the Joes. Blackheart spamming up rapid fire artillery now. One online, another one soon to be completed. Look at these hives now. They're going to fly through this production order. There goes another one. And surely this is going to be it now for the Joes. And they built another one right next to it. I can't believe it. And another one. So as and when one Paragon goes, this entire area will become uninhabitable for mankind for at least the next 1,000 years. Shielding collapsing under the weight of the rapid fire artillery, SOPCOM's most devastating weapon versus shields and generally people's bases, coupled with the Mavor, of course. Why it's not on the experimental list, I don't know. Can someone just move that already? There's no point in it being on the T3 production order. Just put it under the experimental list, would you please? It's experimental in cost, it's experimental in firepower. All that's lacking is the designation. I don't understand why. Looks like a bunch of ASFs got picked off by one of the emissary shells there. Oh, so much death raining down from the skies. It's just a waiting game now for one of these to go. Chain reactions of power generators and shield gens. Oh my god, the tantalizing nature of it. Someone just kill a Paragon already. That middle one down to around 2,400. Go boom! RIP 3 Paras. There's still one alive, actually. It was just outside the blast radius, and I think that might have been the original one. It's got some shield coverage left, but it makes no difference. What's going on up here? Well, we nearly get a Mavor online. And that would have been interesting to see, but I don't think that's going to get completed. Spy planes rolling out for Blackheart, looking for the next. I think the next victim still has to be the Paragon over here. I don't think. Well, actually, we do have some support commanders up here for Commando, and he's the guy with the Paragon, so he can finish that off nice and quickly. Of course, it would take no time for that Paragon to rip. Well, I say that's a lot of shielding. Oh my goodness, would you look at the amount of bugs that Blackheart is producing. Support commanders going pop left, right and center. Almost all shield coverage depleted now over the top of that Paragon. And they did manage to get one rapid fire up. Blackheart has broken the Paragon, 9.2k a second. He's out-producing the Paragon, and I've only seen that a handful of times. That's just how much build power Blackheart has got right now. Commando sending in his ASFs to die, I guess, just to have one last hurrah. Ah, there goes the Mavor. Zero. First time ever see it shooting, really? You need to play different types of games. Play some 40k maps, set aside a whole Sunday, you'll get to see a Mavor fire. Something went pop, and I'm not exactly sure what. There it was. So one of the either the ACUs or the, yeah, we're down to just Commando and Wrong Dog now. Everything transferred over, so we lost Zero. Commando drops out as well. So Rondog gets to hold the Paragon and everything else for a little bit, but it's all moot at this point. Gunships for Blodir rolling in, and experimental gunships for Blackheart rolling in as well. There goes the Paragon. So he had it for a few seconds. A few illustrious seconds. Ride of the Soul Rippers now as they come in to the main base over the top of the mountains in the background. I don't often revel in the sight of overwhelming Cybran firepower, but that's an entertaining sight. Screenshot of the day, I think, rather than movie segment of the day, as my computer grinds to a halt under the weight of projectile calculation. Tech 3 power plants and Tech 3 mass extractors popping like crazy. Where actually is Rondog's ACU? It's under here, and it's going to be a question of when he's had enough, I think. The sheer amount of death that's coming eastwards now. Another 4 Soul Rippers rolling in, because why not? Huge quantities of artillery. But the Joes played very well. You've got to give it to them. They made a few critical mistakes. Obviously, the lack of strategic missile defense perhaps being the most pronounced, and some micro mistakes with large valuable units. But all in all, they did very well against one of the most dangerous duos that could be constructed in the FAF community. There goes Rondog's ACU and the end of the game. But very well done to our pros. I did think the ball was in your court. I've got to say, I did think you were always going to walk away with that one. What are we doing over here? So we've got another Paragon over there. Interestingly, that belongs to Blackheart. So Blodir didn't actually... Oh, there we go. So he's got one further up. But you see what you do there? You space them out. You lose one, you have a spare. Rather than popping them all next to each other and letting them all get popped in one go. To be honest, it would have made no difference, I think. The sheer fact that we had all of the emissaries online first in the center, they were already going to work. The fact that Blackheart got his Paragon online first and had outrageous build power to be able to spam up those hives, spam up those experimental, or not experimental, what should be experimental rapid fire artilleries, and then of course just throw together all of those Soul Rippers. I don't think it would have made any difference had they been able to space out their Paragons. The game was already over at that point. Would have been nice to see how the game would have progressed if Zero and if Powdered Dog had managed to throw down some SMD in their two bases up here. And I gotta say, guys, Blood-Ear and Blackheart, I love that. I would love to see more of that. But I'm challenging you here and now because I don't actually think this is a 2v6. Not really. I think it's a 2v6 if you guys actually start on resources for 2 players, because essentially we know your APM is going to trounce these guys. We know that you've played however many hundreds more games than probably these guys combined. So really, I think if you get, you know what I'd like to see, not a 2v6, I'd like to see, I'm challenging you guys, a 2v4 on Crossfire Canal. That's what I want to see, with you guys occupying just 2 slices of the pizza versus 4, and you're going to have to engage and try and grab your 2 neighboring slices either side early on to even it up. That's going to be really interesting. That's what I'm challenging you. That's what I'd like to see next for another Pros v Joes cast. So there you go. The gauntlet's been laid down. Find your Joes who are willing, because there won't be many to go up against you guys for that. It would be very entertaining indeed. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. There's always more to come from me in the future. Don't forget, if you feel so inclined, you can support me on Patreon. But until next time, stay well and stay safe. This is Guile, signing out.